Hey, we're JAIJ.
And this question is, looking back at your preliminary task, what do you feel you have learned in the progression from it to the full product? We learned to use a SLR camera properly. For example, learning about focusing, manual and auto, which was a huge difference from our preliminary task, as we used a basic Sony camera, which was a lower quality and didn't include manual focus. We used two SLR cameras, which were both Canon 1200D, to get different angles and positions for the same shot, which we could then choose from later on in the process. We also used a tripod in our film, but not the preliminary, to create more steady shots, although we could have used this more.
In our film, we learned that using detailed mise-en-scène would make our film seem more realistic than what our preliminary did. For example, we used police tape and had forensic scientists in boiler suits, which made it look like an actual crime scene. In our preliminary, we used red paint to represent blood on the victim's face, but in our film, we had Mia, our makeup artist, who took time and care making the wounds look realistic and bloody and gory.
For our preliminary task, we used the teacher's office in a small backstage room in our school in sixth form. However, for our film, we used an overgrown and isolated area which was outside of the sixth form, giving a more sense of professionalism and making the area seem more appropriate for a crime scene.
We had actors who were the appropriate age for the film and who looked the part. This made our film look more believable and engaging for our target audience, in comparison to our preliminary task where we used young adults, which made it less feasible.
For our preliminary task, we used nothing but Thief's song Itch. It fit the atmosphere of the film, and we made the drums sync with some of the action. Obviously, we couldn't use copyrighted music, so we decided to practice making our own music using GarageBand. We made a few clips which should work for our film. Finally, we decided to get Simon Lucas Hughes to compose the score, which he created on Logic. The instruments and tools in Logic enable us to make it sound highly professional, and due to us making it after editing the film, we could sync the music to each action which occurs. And if you want to know more about that, it will be in the Technologies video.
In our preliminary task, we used lots of dip to blacks to switch between shots as they didn't flow. This makes it look less professional. However, for our opening 2 minutes, we made sure that each shot flowed into the next smoothly, which meant we didn't have to use any dip to blacks. However, we did use dip to white to represent our flashbacks.
In our preliminary task, we didn't take into account darker and lighter shots. Therefore, when we went to alter the brightness and contrast, there were certain shots that looked out of place. For our final film, we made sure that each shot looked consistent and so the colours flowed between each shot. For example, turning down the brightness in light scenes.
For titles in our preliminary task, we used a big bold font which didn't fit with the style of film very well. Through researching, we decided that a subtle font was the best style as seen in True Detective. We made sure that the titles were non-obtrusive in our final film and cross-dissolved in and out effectively.
During the over-shoulder shot down the corridor in our preliminary task, it took an extremely long time to walk down the corridor, so we had to speed it up during editing. This looked unprofessional, and it is obvious that we changed the shot and it was sped up. Therefore, on our film, we made sure that each shot was accurately shot at the right pace so we wouldn't have to change the speed. However, one of the shots we filmed was sped up during editing to increase tension, as it would have taken it away in the reveal of Quell.
The costumes in our preliminary was items of clothing that we already had on at the time of filming. For our film, we studied the type of costumes that we thought would be more realistic for the film. So we paid a lot of attention to detail and went out of our way to get real boiler suits for our forensic scientists, including the gloves. We took inspiration from Gotham and True Detective by having our detectives wear suits with overcoats, and obviously added forensic gloves to link with our realistic mise-en-scène. We also looked at the small details, which will probably go unnoticed in our film. For example, the detectives having their top buttons undone to show the stress and the workload.
So yeah, that was what we've learned from looking back at our preliminary task. We hope you enjoy it, and if you haven't watched our film, go and watch it, see how much better it is than our preliminary. Even though that was pretty good.
That was That was pretty good. Not to blow our entrance. Oh, never mind.
Alright then.
Bye.
So, see you later.
Bye.